My birth certificate reads Michael Allen Peterson, but hardly anyone uses my full name. In the courtroom and with strangers, I'm Mr. Peterson. To friends and colleagues at the district attorney's office, I'm Mike. My family calls me Mikey, a relic of childhood that stuck. But my favorite title, the one that truly matters, is Dad. My 14-year-old daughter, Chloe, calls me Dad or Daddy when she wants something. That word means more to me than any honorific or law degree on my wall. And my wife? Well, Lauren used to have a whole dictionary of sweet names for me. When we first married, it was Honey or Sweetheart, sometimes even Hotshot on days I won a big case. Lately, though, I was lucky to get a bland Michael. No affection, no warmth. Just my given name, spoken as if we were distant acquaintances. There's a reason for that change, and I'm getting to it. I'm a pretty ordinary guy by most measures. 40 years old, a shade under 6 feet tall, with a torso that could use a bit more gym time and a bit less fast food. I'm no action hero or tech genius. I'm an assistant district attorney for our county in Illinois, head of one of the trial divisions. My job is to put bad guys behind bars, not to get rich. I'm not a millionaire or a Wall Street player. I'm a civil servant with scuffed shoes and stacks of case files on a wobbly office desk. And you know what? I love what I do. After law school, I had offers to join a couple of big corporate firms doing mergers or real estate deals. Yawn. I even had an interview for a tax law position. If you want to torture me, lock me in a room with tax code printouts. In the end, I chose the gritty path of a prosecutor. I wanted to be in a courtroom, fighting for justice, not sitting in a boardroom tracking billable hours. The trade-off was obvious. Less money, more stress, frayed furniture in a cramped office. But I got to stand up in court and make a difference. I started as a lowly misdemeanor ADA, cutting my teeth on petty crimes. I was good at it, good enough to move up to felonies, and eventually to lead a trial team. The paychecks never grew fat, but my skills and reputation did. I helped put away thieves, gangbangers, wife-beaters, the worst of humanity's lineup, and I felt damn good about that. It was satisfying work, important work, and I wouldn't trade it for any cushy corporate gig. I met Lauren in law school, of all places. I was a third year, she was a first year, and we literally ran into each other in the library stacks. I knocked over an armload of her case books. She laughed it off, and we ended up sharing coffee amid the dusty volumes of torts and contracts. Coffee led to late-night study sessions, then dinners that lasted till closing time. By the time I graduated and landed a one-year judicial clerkship nearby, we were inseparable. We got married the summer after she got her JD, and soon after came our daughter, Chloe. From the moment Chloe opened her eyes, I was wrapped around her little finger. Being dad became my most treasured role in life. For a long while, our marriage worked well, or so I thought. Lauren started her career at a mid-sized firm doing corporate litigation. I was grinding away at the DA's office. Money was tight with a new baby and 2 junior lawyer salaries, but we managed. More importantly, we had time. My hours were more predictable, and I often got home in time to feed Chloe, bathe her, read bedtime stories. We joked that I was Mr. Mom, and honestly, I loved every minute of it. Lauren, meanwhile, was ambitious and talented, and when Chloe was about 7, Lauren landed a plum job at Carter, Mills & White, one of the biggest law firms in Chicago. Carter, Mills & White, or CMW as everyone called it, was the kind of firm that makes legal news headlines. They had politicians and Fortune 500 CEOs on speed dial, and a skyline office with marble floors that could rival a 5-star hotel lobby. Partnership at CMW was the brass ring. Even junior partners pulled down $500,000 a year, with the true rainmakers earning 7 figures and up. The name partners Gerald Carter, Elaine Mills, and Howard White were legal legends and unabashed egomaniacs. Elaine Mills, in particular, was known as Laura Lena behind closed doors, a play on her first name and Cruella de Vil. She cultivated an image of ruthless perfection. The firm's culture trickled down from the top. Brilliant work was expected, billable hours were a blood sport, and a cocky, we run this city attitude was practically a job requirement. When Lauren stepped into that world, she stepped up her game. She worked insane hours to prove herself worthy of the opportunity. I understood it, to a point. I was proud of her success and did my best to hold down the fort at home. For the first couple of years at CMW, we managed to balance things. Lauren missed some weeknight dinners, sure, but she tried to keep weekends for us and for Chloe. Somewhere around Lauren's 4th year at CMW, things started to shift. It was subtle at first, a late evening here, a working Saturday there. But as time went on, Lauren's absences piled up. By the time Chloe was hitting middle school, I was eating dinner alone with our daughter nearly every night. Lauren was always at the office, or on a business trip, or closeted in the study with her laptop and phone. Family movie nights became a rarity. Date nights were virtually non-existent. I remember one Sunday morning, Chloe asked me, "Is Mom ever going to come to my soccer games again?" I had no good answer for her. Whenever I tried to gently broach the subject with Lauren, I'd get stock responses, verbal eye rolls dismissing my concerns. "You're exaggerating, Mike. It's not that bad. I have to put in these hours if I want to make partner." Or the one that always stung the worst, "If you had my job, you'd understand." In one particularly rough stretch, Lauren missed a string of important family events. It's not that she forgot, she just chose work over us every time. Over a span of maybe 3 months, she blew off. My 40th birthday dinner. She sent a pricey bottle of scotch to the restaurant with a note, "Drink one for me." I drank 2, alone with my thoughts. Chloe's junior high graduation ceremony. Chloe scanned the auditorium for her mom and ended up in tears when we got home. Our 15th wedding anniversary. We had reservations at the same little Italian bistro where we'd celebrated our engagement. I sat at the table solo for an hour like an idiot, making excuses to the waiter and eventually boxing up cold lasagna to take home. A long-planned weekend at my parents' lake house. The car was literally packed and idling in the driveway when Lauren hurriedly announced she had to be in New York for an urgent client meeting. Chloe and I went without her. It was impossible to hide the disappointment on my folks' faces when I showed up with Lauren's apologies and no Lauren. Each time, Lauren's justification was the same. "This is what it takes. Once I make partner, things will calm down." It felt like I was running a one-parent household with an overworked absentee roommate dropping by occasionally. And poor Chloe. She tried to be understanding, but it was taking a toll. She stopped asking, "When will Mom be home?" because the answer was almost always late or tomorrow. At her dance recital that spring, she gave a brilliant performance, and I was the only parent there for her. Our daughter was growing up with a part-time mother, and even though I tried to fill the gap with double the love, I could see the hurt in Chloe's eyes. Chloe is a sharp kid, frighteningly perceptive at times. She reads people the way I read case files. Ever since she was little, she'd notice if I forced a smile or if Lauren's tone was a notch too harsh. As a result, she was already sensing the rift between us before I fully admitted it to myself. She's also tough in her own right. Maybe it's all the novels she devours. The kid read To Kill a Mockingbird for fun in 6th grade. Or maybe it's just her nature. But she's always had a keen BS detector and a tongue like a whip when provoked. One Friday evening stands out in my memory as the moment I realized just how bad things had gotten. We were supposed to drive downstate to visit Lauren's parents for her dad's 70th birthday, a surprise family reunion at their country house by the lake. Chloe was excited to spend time with her grandparents and cousins. I was looking forward to a rare weekend off the grid, no trials, no court deadlines, just fishing with my father-in-law and grilling burgers under the stars. Bags were packed, and we were literally ready to head out the door when Lauren breezed in on her phone, pale and tense. The call ended, and she refused to meet my eyes as she said, "I'm so sorry. I have to fly to Raleigh tonight. Elaine, Mills, and I have an emergency meeting with a client first thing tomorrow." Just like that, our getaway was torpedoed. I was livid. This trip had been on the calendar for months. How could something at work trump her own father's milestone birthday? Lauren had the gall to act annoyed at my frustration. She kept glancing at her phone, rattling off an excuse. "Believe me, I didn't choose this. If I want that partnership, I need to be a team player. They need me on this, Michael." As she rushed around to throw a few garments into her carry-on, I followed her into the bedroom, voice low and tight. "You realize you've missed almost every important moment in our lives lately?" She snapped. "I don't have time for a guilt trip. This is big, okay? Carter himself asked me to assist on closing this deal in North Carolina. I'll make it up to you and Chloe, I promise." "Make it up how, Lauren? By showing up once a quarter with pizza and a movie?" I shot back. "Chloe's hurting. She needs her mom. I need my wife. We are your family, remember?" She slammed her suitcase shut and finally locked eyes with me. The woman I saw was a stranger, tense, impatient, utterly closed off. "You're overreacting," she said. "I'm doing the best I can. Not everyone can clock out at 5 and play hero at home like you. It was a cheap shot. Dismissing what I do because I don't bring home 6 figures." I felt my face heat up, a mix of anger and shame swirling in my gut. "This isn't about my job or yours. It's about us," I managed through clenched teeth. "Chloe is noticing you're never there. I'm noticing—" Lauren rolled her eyes. "Save the speech. When I make partner, you'll thank me for all this. Now I have to go. Elaine is waiting downstairs." I watched as she hefted her suitcase and briskly walked out. No hug, no kiss goodbye. Just the faint scent of her perfume left in the foyer and the echo of the door closing. I remember the stunned look on Chloe's face as she emerged from the kitchen, having overheard at least the tone, if not the exact words of our argument. "Is Mom not coming?" she asked quietly. I had to tell her no, not this weekend. Chloe nodded, anger flashing in her eyes. "Of course she isn't," she said in a flat voice that sounded far older than 14. Lauren's Uber was already pulling away as I stepped onto the porch. She didn't look back. I stood there for a long minute, the evening air growing cool, watching the taillights disappear down our street. Something fundamental had broken between us, but I still hoped it was fixable. I still assumed we were just going through a rough patch, that eventually we'd talk it out, maybe at counseling or during a vacation, if she ever took one with us again. I never imagined that within a few weeks I'd get the phone call that would shatter any illusions I had left about our marriage. It happened on a Tuesday morning, a couple of weeks after the aborted trip to the lake house. I was in my office, half-heartedly sifting through case files while my mind wandered to the mess of my home life. The phone rang, display showing no caller ID. I almost let it go to voicemail. Blocked calls usually mean robocallers hawking car warranties. At the last second, I picked up. "Assistant DA Peterson," I answered, eyes still on a particularly tedious motion in front of me. There was a short pause, and then a woman's voice asked, "Is this Michael Peterson? Married to Lauren Peterson?" who works at Carter, Mills and White. My grip on the phone tightened. Yes, I said slowly, already bracing for bad news. In my line of work, a stranger calling about your wife could mean she'd been in an accident or worse. My heart thudded. Did something happen to Lauren? Not in the way you think, the woman replied. Your wife is fine. Well, unless you count what she's doing to you behind your back. I felt a chill scuttle up my spine. I'm sorry. Who is this? She let out a breath. Think of me as a friend, someone who knows and thought you should know. Know what exactly? I asked, my voice sounding far calmer than I felt. My free hand was clenched so hard the knuckles went white. Her next words dropped like an anvil. Michael, your wife is having an affair. I went very still in my chair. Excuse me? Lauren is sleeping with one of the senior partners at CMW, the woman continued, her tone matter of fact but not unkind. His name is Andrew Kincaid. It's been going on for about 8 months now, right under your nose. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The caller pressed on, filling the silence with details. They usually get together on the pretense of business trips or late nights at the office. Remember that urgent trip to Raleigh last month? Raleigh, the client meeting? I stammered. My mind flashed to Lauren's hurried packing, her irritated dismissal of my concerns. There was no client crisis, the caller said. Kincaid was speaking at a legal seminar there. She tagged along, and they turned it into a weekend together. I have the hotel confirmation under his assistant's name, 2 guests, 1 king bed. I shut my eyes. Each word from this stranger was a scalpel, slicing away at my denial. She continued, the Hawaii seminar in the spring, that was another rendezvous, and the overnight at the Four Seasons last week, when she told you she was stuck preparing for a trial, she was with him. My stomach lurched. I suddenly felt like I might throw up right there on my desk. Why should I believe any of this? I managed to choke out. It sounded like I was pleading, but I wasn't sure if I was pleading for proof or for her to take it all back as a lie. I figured you'd ask, the woman said softly. I have proof. Emails, a few photos, even some internal memos from CMW hinting at these. Let's call them extracurricular activities. I'll send you everything. What's your email? My brain was scrambling now, half of it processing the bombshell that my wife was unfaithful, the other half operating on lawyer autopilot. Get evidence, verify facts. Hold on, I heard myself say, reaching with a trembling hand for my laptop. I created a brand new Gmail address on the spot. No way was I using my work email for this, and gave it to her. Within seconds, my inbox pinged with new messages. I clicked on one, and a grainy cell phone photo filled my screen. Lauren at an upscale hotel bar, recognizable in her navy blazer, clinking a wine glass with a tall man I instantly recognized as Andrew Kincaid. The timestamp in the corner was the night of the supposed Raleigh trip. Another email had an image of an itinerary for 2 to Honolulu dated 6 months ago, with Lauren's name listed right below Kincaid's. It felt like the floor opened up beneath me. All those business trips, the late nights, the sudden out-of-town emergencies, they were all lies, elaborate, callous lies. I realized the caller was speaking again, her voice gentle now. I'm truly sorry, Michael. I know this is devastating. I went through something similar, which is why I'm calling. My own husband, also a lawyer, cheated on me with his paralegal. 10 years of marriage down the drain. I was gutted and angry and, well, I couldn't sit by once I learned about Lauren and Kincaid. How did you find out? I croaked, still staring blankly at the incriminating emails on my screen. Kincaid's firm isn't as secretive as they think. Let's just say I have a friend on the inside at CMW who hates seeing good people get hurt. She clued me in, and I decided to pass it along. I can't give you my name. It doesn't matter anyway. What matters is you know the truth now. I swallowed the bitter taste in my mouth and took a deep breath. Thank you, I said, my voice rough. I appreciate you telling me. It felt inadequate, but I was in shock. If I were you, the woman said, I'd hire a good private investigator to get even more proof, the kind that holds up in court. You deserve better than what's being done to you, and your daughter does too. Chloe. My heart cracked at the thought of her. Chloe, I whispered. She can't find out about this. Not like this. I understand. Just gather what you need and protect her. I wish you the best of luck, truly. There was a pause, and before I could think of anything else to say, she hung up. I stayed there, frozen, the dial tone droning in my ear until I finally remembered to put the phone down. I stared at the emails the caller had sent, cycling through them over and over. Lauren and Kincaid entering what looked like a company-owned apartment building downtown. An email from Kincaid to Lauren, to her personal Gmail, not her work address, saying, "Can't wait for our next getaway. Miss you." A receipt for a couple's massage at a resort in Maui billed to a corporate card. It was overwhelming. It was sickening. I had suspected something was wrong, yes. But this? The sheer length of time, the brazenness of it, like when I'd offered to pick her up from work the night her car was in the shop, and she insisted someone from the firm would drive her. Chloe later mentioned in passing that a Mr. Kincaid brought Mom home that night, and I'd naively assumed it was a professional courtesy. Now I knew better. Anger and grief clashed inside me, leaving me shaking. But beneath those emotions, a cold resolve was forming. Whoever that anonymous caller truly was, she was right. I needed to protect myself and my daughter. I needed evidence, undeniable, ironclad proof of everything, because a storm was coming. I forced myself to focus. First step, know thy enemy. I pulled up the CMW law firm website and navigated to the partners page. It didn't take long to find Andrew J. Kincaid. His bio was impressive in the way that made my stomach turn. Harvard Law, editor of the Law Review. Chaired the firm's corporate practice group. On the boards of a children's hospital charity and a prestigious legal ethics committee. The irony of that almost made me laugh. Age 46, married to Dr. Margaret Kincaid, a pediatrician no less. 2 kids, ages 10 and 12. The online profile photo showed Kincaid with a winning politician's smile, silver-threaded hair at the temples, exuding confidence and success. Reading about his wholesome family life and stellar career, I felt a white-hot flash of rage. None of these glowing credentials mentioned the fact that he was sleeping with another man's wife, with my wife. The bastard was carrying on an affair with Lauren as casually as one might have a standing golf date. And Lauren, the betrayal cut deep. This wasn't a one-night stand or a fling. It was a full-blown relationship. She had risked our family, our daughter's stability, and my trust for almost a year. I slammed my laptop shut, chest heaving. I knew I wasn't going to accomplish anything else at work that day. I got up, locked those printouts and notes from the caller in my bottom drawer, and headed straight for my boss's office. My boss, Robert Bob Keller, is the elected district attorney and a man I've known for over a decade. He's a gruff, burly guy with a heart of gold beneath the barking exterior. His door was open, and as soon as he saw my face, he frowned. "Mike, you look like you got hit by a truck. What's wrong?" I closed his door behind me for privacy and sank into the chair opposite his cluttered desk. "Bob, I need to give you a heads up on something personal," I began. My voice sounded hollow to my own ears. His frown deepened. "Okay." I took a moment, steadying myself. "I just found out Lauren has been cheating on me." Saying it out loud made it more real, and I had to fight the urge to either break something or break down. Bob's eyes widened, then flashed with anger on my behalf. "Jesus, Mike, I'm sorry." He ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "Is it someone from her firm?" I nodded. "A senior partner. It's pretty bad. I'm going to be filing for divorce, no question. But the reason I'm telling you is, this could get messy. The guy she's involved with is a big name in the legal community. If this blows up, there might be publicity." Bob leaned back, absorbing that. "Who is it?" "Andrew Kincaid, over at Carter, Mills and White," I said. Bob let out a low whistle. "Kincaid. Figures. Those CMW hotshots think they're untouchable." He fixed me with a serious look. "What do you need, Mike?" "I might need some personal days here and there to deal with lawyers and everything," I said. "If it gets ugly, I want you to know I'm ready to resign if there's any risk of this reflecting poorly on the office. I mean that. I'll step away rather than drag the DA's office through the mud." Bob's eyebrows knitted together as if I'd insulted him. "Now listen here. You are one of my best ADAs. And more importantly, you're like family. You're not going anywhere. You do whatever you gotta do, take whatever time, and you keep me in the loop. As long as you don't do anything stupid like go key the guy's car on camera." He gave a half smile. "I don't give a damn about their high society drama. If the press asks, I'll just say it's a personal matter and we support you. Hell, those arrogant pricks at CMW could use a kick in the ass." I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. "Thanks, Bob." My throat was tight with gratitude and emotion. He stood and walked around the desk to squeeze my shoulder. "I mean it. You take care of yourself and that little girl. If you need to vent or need anything, my door's open. I've been through a nasty split myself, a long time ago. Not the same situation, but I know how rough divorce can be. And Mike," I met his eyes, "don't let the bastards grind you down." I gave a small nod. "I won't." From the DA's office, I took the elevator down 2 floors to where our investigations bureau was housed. If I was going to war, I needed ammunition, and that meant solid proof beyond the tidbits my mystery caller had provided. I had to be absolutely sure, and I needed evidence that would stand up in court if it came to that. Our chief investigator, Gary Morales, was standing by the coffee machine, likely on his 10th cup of the day. Gary was a former homicide detective who now wrangled our team of investigators. He took one look at me and said, "Who died?" "My marriage, apparently," I said, attempting a grim smile. "Gary, I need a referral, discreetly." I ushered him into an empty side office and closed the door. In a low voice, I told Gary a truncated version of events. Wife's affair. Need proof. Gary listened without interrupting, his face sympathetic. "Sorry, man," he said when I finished. "That's rough. But you came to the right place." He pulled out his phone. "Private investigator, right? I know just the guy. Used to work fraud for the bureau before going private. Smart and absolutely discreet." Gary made a call and within minutes had set up a meeting for me with Colin Sandoval, PI. I thanked him profusely. "Hang in there, Mike," Gary said as I left. "And if you need someone to grab a beer with or, I don't know, move a dead body, give me a ring." "Appreciate it, but let's hope it doesn't come to the latter," I replied with a weak chuckle. That afternoon, I met Colin at a diner 2 towns over. the kind of greasy spoon no one from the courthouse was likely to frequent. Colin Sandoval was a wiry man in his 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He slid into the booth across from me and got right to business. Gary gave me the broad strokes. "Why don't you fill in the details?" I did. It felt surreal saying it out loud to a stranger, that my wife, the mother of my child, was sneaking around with another man, that I'd learned about it from some clandestine whistleblower, that I needed his help to confirm every sordid detail. Colin nodded thoughtfully, asked a few pointed questions. Did I have any of Lauren's phone or email records? When was her next supposed business trip? Did she suspect anything about me possibly knowing? And then laid out a plan. "Here's what I'll do," he said, ticking points off on his fingers. "First, I'll tail them when they're likely to meet. I have a 2-person team, a female associate who can blend in places if needed. We'll get photos and video if possible. Next, I'll dig into any financial trails. If they used company resources, that could leave a footprint. I can also pull phone records and see if there's frequent contact between her cell and his. And I'll see if my sources at a couple hotels can quietly confirm their guest logs on those trips you mentioned." I liked how thorough he was. "That sounds good. I want everything you can get, and I need it as soon as possible." "Understood. Quality evidence takes time, though," he cautioned. "We don't want to tip them off by being sloppy. Of course, just do what you can." I slid a plain white envelope across the table to him. Inside was a cashier's check from my personal rainy day savings account for the retainer, an account Lauren had no access to and no knowledge of. "Will this cover to start?" Colin peeked at the amount and raised an eyebrow. "This is plenty for now. If I need more for any big expenses, I'll let you know, but frankly, I think this should do it." He tucked the envelope away. "I'll be in touch as soon as I have something solid, or if anything urgent comes up." We shook hands. His grip was firm and confident. "I've seen a lot of these cases, Mr. Peterson. It's never pretty, but knowledge is power. We'll get you what you need." On the drive home, I felt a grim determination set in. My emotions were still raw, hurt, anger, betrayal, but channeling them into action gave me a sense of control. I had an investigator on the case. I had the support of my boss and a plan forming in my head. There was still an enormous question mark hovering over every aspect of my personal life, but at least I wasn't utterly alone in facing it. That evening, I returned home to find Lauren in the kitchen, unusually early. The savory smell of her homemade bolognese sauce simmering on the stove caught me off guard. She hadn't cooked on a weeknight in ages. For a moment, the scene looked almost normal. My wife at the stove humming along to music, Chloe at the table doing homework. It struck me as either cosmic irony or a last act of someone trying to cover their tracks. "Hey, Dad," Chloe called, looking up from her textbook. "Mom's making spaghetti. You okay?" Her eyes took in my face. I probably looked as wrung out as I felt. "Long day, Pumpkin," I replied, mustering a smile. "But better now that I'm home." Lauren turned and gave me a tentative smile. "Hi, honey. I thought I'd make a nice dinner since I'm actually home for once." She tried for a light chuckle. I detected a hint of nervousness in her eyes. "Smells great," I said, hanging my coat. I wasn't sure how to act. Part of me wanted to rage at her, demand answers, but I had to play it cool, at least until Colin gathered what he needed. Over dinner, Lauren was uncharacteristically attentive. She asked Chloe about school, nodded along to teenage drama about friend groups and an upcoming science fair. She even touched my hand at one point and asked if I was doing okay, saying I looked tired. I mumbled something about a tough case. It was surreal. Here we were, The picture of a happy family around the dinner table, while beneath it all was a minefield of betrayal and secrets. I couldn't reconcile the two Laurens in my mind, the polished, affectionate wife twirling spaghetti onto my plate, and the calculating woman sneaking off to hotels with her lover. After dinner, Chloe retreated to her room to FaceTime a friend about homework. I started washing up the dishes, anything to occupy my hands and avoid conversation. But Lauren joined me at the sink, towel in hand to dry. "Mike," she said softly, "about the other weekend. I really am sorry. I know I hurt you and Chloe by missing the lake trip." I kept my eyes on the soapy water as she continued. "I've been thinking, maybe we should plan something for just us three soon. No work, I promise." She managed a small, hopeful smile. "Maybe Disneyland? Or that beach vacation we talked about last year and never took?" The audacity of it made my jaw clench. She was offering me Disney while playing me for a fool behind my back. I had to be careful not to let my fury show. I turned to her and spoke calmly. "Let's talk about it later. I'm beat tonight." Her face flickered with disappointment, but she nodded. "Sure, maybe this weekend over lunch?" "Maybe," I lied. I needed to get away from her, from the forced normalcy of our interaction. So I mumbled something about reviewing a case and headed to the living room. I flipped on the TV, not even seeing what channel I'd landed on. Some movie was playing. Diane Lane and Richard Gere were having an argument in a dimly lit scene. My heart gave a jolt as I realized the film was unfaithful. Pure coincidence, but what were the odds? I glanced up to see if Lauren had followed me. She hadn't. She was probably tidying up in the kitchen. Impulsively, I left the movie running. In the film, I vaguely recalled, a suburban wife cheats on her husband and it ends in violence. It was dark, yes, but part of me suddenly wanted Lauren to see it, to squirm. A few minutes later, Lauren did come into the living room, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What are you watching?" she asked, sitting at the opposite end of the couch from me. I kept my eyes on the screen. "Not sure," I lied casually. "Caught it in the middle. Some Richard Gere movie." On the TV, Gere's character was tailing his adulterous wife, about to confront her lover. The tension was palpable. Lauren recognized it then. "Is this unfaithful?" I could feel her watching me now instead of the screen. "Yeah, that's it," I said. In the movie, Gere's character was silently raging as he discovered indisputable proof of his wife's affair. I almost laughed at how on the nose this all was. "Hell of a plot," I muttered. "Wife sneaks around with some French guy. The husband finds out and loses it." Lauren shifted uneasily. "Can we not watch this?" I ignored that. "You know what he does?" I asked, finally turning to look at her. Her face was slightly pale. "The husband." She swallowed. "Mike. He confronts the lover," I continued evenly, "and ends up killing him. Beats him over the head with a snow globe in a fit of rage." I tapped the side of my head. "Snaps." Lauren's eyes widened. I remember. It's been a while since I saw it." She tried to let out a little laugh that came out forced. "Pretty extreme reaction, don't you think?" I shrugged and turned back to the screen. "Maybe. But hey, fuck around and find out." Lauren sucked in a breath at my use of the crude phrase. I never talked like that around her. "Mike, what's that supposed to mean?" I could feel the air crackling with tension between us. My heart was hammering, and I had to be careful. I was so damn close to unloading all of it on her right then and there. The anonymous tip, the evidence in my drawer, the knowledge of her every lie. But I bit my tongue. Timing was everything now. so I forced a neutral expression and reached for the remote. It's just a saying, Lauren. Forget it. I switched off the TV. The room fell into thick silence. She placed a hand on my arm. I know things have been rough lately. Work has been... I pulled my arm away instinctively, and her words died. We sat there, the gulf between us yawning wider than ever. In the quiet, I could hear her unsteady breathing. After a long moment, she spoke again, voice wavering slightly. I hate that we've been fighting. How about we go upstairs? She trailed a hand lightly across my shoulder. I miss you. Her tone was an attempt at seduction, but I detected desperation at the edges. I stiffened. The very thought of touching her right now made my skin crawl. Just hours ago, I'd been looking at pictures of her entangled in someone else's life. There was no way. I'm not really in the mood, Lauren, I said quietly. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Lauren was used to me being ready and willing whenever she was. Our sex life might have dwindled in frequency, but I had never turned her down outright. Mike, she began, a hint of indignation creeping in. I'm trying to apologize, to make things right. I stood up, needing to put physical distance between us. I'm going to sleep in the den tonight. I have an early start tomorrow. The hurt on her face was plain, but beneath it something else flashed. Fear? Why are you acting like this? She asked, standing as well. You're still mad about the lake house, I get it. But I told you I'll make it up. How long are you going to punish me? I paused at the doorway, my back to her. My voice was flat. I'm not punishing you, Lauren. I'm just tired. Without waiting for a response, I walked out. Behind me, I heard her let out a frustrated sound, half sigh, half sob. I didn't turn around. In the den, I shut the door and locked it. I sank onto the couch, heart pounding. Every muscle in my body was tense, as if expecting an ambush. Part of me was tempted to march back out there and confront her with everything, to unleash the tempest of betrayal and watch her try to lie her way out. But not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed proof, not just for me, but for what was coming. Divorce, custody, possibly a war with not just Lauren, but her high-powered lover and his fancy lawyers. I had to be smart. As I lay in the dark, I replayed that moment on the couch. Her shock at my coldness, her attempts to reach out. Was she feeling guilty, or just afraid I might know? Her reaction to the movie and my words, it was like she suspected something. If I had any doubt about the affair, and I really didn't, not anymore, her behavior just now pretty much confirmed that she knew she was guilty. I almost smiled in the darkness. She was nervous. Good, let her be. Upstairs, I heard our bedroom door close. For a long time, I stared at the ceiling, listening to the distant sound of water running. Lauren getting ready for bed alone, I presumed. When the house finally fell silent, I closed my eyes. In my mind, I repeated the silent promise I'd made as I left Bob's office earlier. Don't let the bastards grind you down. They wouldn't. I was going to get through this, and when I was done, those who betrayed me would wish they'd never underestimated a man with nothing left to lose. Feigning normalcy over the next few weeks was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Every morning I'd wake up and remind myself, stick to the plan, don't tip your hand. I continued to sleep in the den due to work stress, and Lauren, perhaps guilty or confused, didn't press the issue too hard. We moved around each other carefully. She tried being extra attentive, packing Chloe's lunch, something I usually did, sending me miss you texts in the middle of the day, even suggesting we have a family game night. I played along just enough to keep her off guard, but I couldn't bring myself to pretend too much. I was polite, distant. I imagine she rationalized it as me sulking over the lake trip fight. If only that were the biggest issue. Meanwhile, Colin the PI and his associate were busy gathering the truth. Every few days, we'd touch base via a secure messaging app or quick whispered phone calls. It astonished me how much dirt Colin was able to unearth so quickly, a testament to Lauren and Kincaid's recklessness and the thoroughness of my mole inside CMW, whoever that might be. By early November, I had an arsenal of evidence locked away, enough to blow Lauren's lies sky high. Among the highlights, photographs, high-resolution telephoto shots of Lauren and Kincaid meeting up on multiple occasions. In one series, they're seen entering a luxury high-rise downtown known to house corporate apartments. The timestamp at 12:14 p.m. on a Tuesday, long lunch break. Neither emerged until almost 2 p.m. Another set of images showed them at O'Hare Airport, boarding a flight to New Orleans together. There was no New York client meeting that day, despite what Lauren told me. Video footage. A short, grainy clip of Lauren and Kincaid in a corner booth at a dim restaurant, the camera angle through the window. It caught them in a passionate kiss. The restaurant was in Raleigh, the night of that so-called emergency trip. Date and time stamped. Phone and text records. Colin managed to obtain logs showing hundreds of texts and late-night calls between Lauren's personal cell and a number registered to Kincaid. Using some pre-texting trick, he even acquired a few actual text messages. One from Lauren read, "Mike was asleep by 10. Missing you, can't wait till DC next week." Apparently a conference in DC was on her calendar for mid-month, something she hadn't bothered to mention to me yet. Emails and documents. My anonymous guardian angel, or someone at her behest, forwarded more goodies. These included a couple of suggestive emails between Lauren and Kincaid from their personal accounts, including one where Kincaid daydreamed about whisking her off to Paris once she made partner. Perhaps most damning for the firm was an internal memo from Elaine Mills herself, joking that Andrew should get a room. Oh wait, he did, in reference to the Hawaii trip. It was proof that CMW's leadership knew about the affair and chose to ignore it, or even subtly encourage it, since Kincaid was a big rainmaker. There were also travel expense reports showing the firm paid for double accommodations on trips where only one room was used, creative accounting to hide personal escapades as business expenses. That's fraud, and it made my lawyer brain giddy for a moment thinking how that might play in a courtroom. Audio recordings. Perhaps the most heartbreaking piece of evidence for me was a recording Colin's partner managed to capture. By some miracle, and a tiny listening device planted in Lauren's office during a night cleaning crew, courtesy of my mysterious insider, I got to hear a candid conversation between Lauren and her closest friend at work, Nina. On the recording, Lauren poured out her feelings. "I know it's wrong, but I feel alive with Andrew. Mike is a good man, but our life is so mundane. I want excitement, sparks. I deserve to be happy." My stomach churned hearing Lauren's voice say those words, laced with self-justification. Nina, bless her, actually tried to talk sense into her. "Lauren, you're blowing up your family for what? Some fling? Mike loves you and Chloe, think of her. This will destroy them." Lauren responded in a frustrated tone. "I do love Mike, but I'm not in love with him. Not like before. And it's not just sex with Andrew, I don't know, he understands me. He's successful and driven like I am." The conversation ended with Nina pleading, "Just be careful. If you're not willing to leave Mike yet, then at least don't get caught." That last line from Nina was almost darkly comical. Too late for that, I thought. But it also told me that at least one person, aside from Kincaid, in Lauren's life knew of the affair. Possibly more. They were all keeping it secret from me, patting Lauren on the back while she stabbed me there. One other tidbit arrived via my mole, a snippet overheard in Kincaid's office. Apparently, Lauren had grown uneasy in the past week. She told Kincaid that I was acting distant and had even rejected her advances, something I'd never done before. I almost smiled, hearing that I had put her on the back foot. Kincaid's advice to her? Lay low for a while. He suggested they cool it with the out-of-town trysts and stick strictly to business at work, at least until things at home settle down. In other words, he suspected I might be onto them. Smart boy, but not smart enough. By mid-November, Colin delivered his full report. He slid a thick folder and a USB drive across a quiet booth at the same diner where we'd first met. "It's all in there," he said. "Photos, time logs, transcripts of the recordings. It's pretty airtight." I flipped through the folder, my eyes scanning each damning piece of my wife's betrayal compiled so neatly. For a moment, a fresh wave of sorrow hit me. How did we get here? How did the woman I loved so much become this person in these pages? But I forced the emotion down. I wasn't the first husband to be betrayed, and I wouldn't be the last. The difference was, I had the means and the will to ensure the consequences would be dire. "Thank you, Colin," I said quietly. "You did fantastic work." He nodded, then hesitated. "If you don't mind a bit of free advice." "Sure." "Try to keep a clear head," he said, stirring his coffee. "I've seen guys in your shoes do some impulsive things that backfire legally. But you strike me as the calculating type. Just stick to that. Don't let the anger take over when the moment comes." It was a perceptive comment. I wondered how much of the fuck around and find out vibe he got from me. "I appreciate that," I said. "Believe me, I plan to handle this strategically." I tapped the folder. "This is my ammunition. There won't be any friendly fire incidents." As I left, I felt a grim satisfaction. I finally had what I needed to proceed. No more doubt. "No," he said, she said. This was unassailable proof. That evening, after triple securing the evidence in a hidden file on my office computer and a locked drawer, and backing it up twice for good measure, I called a trusted divorce attorney I'd quietly vetted. Her name was Amanda Pierce, a no-nonsense family law specialist known for her razor-sharp approach. She'd come highly recommended by a judge friend of mine. I met Amanda at her office after hours, where I laid out the situation, evidence, and my intended approach. Her eyebrows inched upward as I summarized, and by the end, she leaned back and gave a low whistle. "Well, Mr. Peterson," she said, "you've done your homework. Not many clients walk in with a prepared dossier." "I had some help," I replied dryly. "We discussed the divorce logistics. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state now, so I couldn't technically sue Lauren for adultery in civil court. But Amanda assured me that presenting the affair evidence could influence things like custody and any discretionary parts of property division. Lauren was the higher earner by far. Ironically, I might even have a claim for spousal support from her if I wanted, though I doubted I could stomach taking her money. Mostly, I wanted my daughter and a fair split of assets. The house, frankly, I was inclined to let Lauren keep. Too many memories, and Chloe had already told me she'd rather never set foot in it again after this. I'd rather downsize and start fresh. "Custody will be the main battlefield," Amanda predicted. "Mothers tend to have an edge, but a 14-year-old's preference carries weight. And if we present evidence that Lauren's affair negatively affected Chloe..." "Chloe's on my side," I said. She's old enough to make it clear where she wants to be. Good. Amanda scribbled some notes. Now about this other plan you mentioned, suing the lover and possibly the firm. Her tone was cautious. I had indeed relayed to her my desire to go beyond the divorce. The affair wasn't just a personal betrayal. It felt like a conspiracy against me by a bunch of high-powered narcissists. I wanted them to hurt too, legally, financially, reputation-wise. Yes, I answered. Alienation of affection, criminal conversation. These old torts still exist in some states, and their little romps crossed state lines. She gave a wry smile. You've been doing some research. Carolina and Utah, I said. Possibly New Mexico. Those are the places they had their sleepovers. And coincidentally, those states still allow spouses to sue for undermining a marriage. I had already quietly consulted with an attorney friend in North Carolina who confirmed that if any substantial part of an affair happened there, I could file. The Raleigh trip was a green light. Amanda nodded. It's unconventional, but not unheard of. It'll be costly and no guarantee of success, but the threat alone might be leverage. Oh, I'm willing to follow through, I assured her. It's not about a payout. It's about consequences. Kincaid and his enablers at CMW need to feel this. She tapped her pen. All right. We can coordinate with local counsel in those states to file lawsuits on your behalf. You mentioned evidence implicating the firm's leadership, fraud with travel expenses, possible cover-up of misconduct. We could also explore a civil conspiracy claim or even a RICO claim if there's a pattern of using company resources for personal affairs. It's creative, but it might get traction. I liked that she said we. Exactly. I want their board and every partner who turned a blind eye to be named. Even if those suits ultimately get dismissed, the embarrassment and headaches of litigation might be worth it. Amanda looked at me with a mix of admiration and mild concern. This is going to be a war on multiple fronts, Mike. Are you prepared for that? I thought of Lauren's face, lying to me so easily, night after night. I thought of Kincaid, smiling at charity events with his unsuspecting wife on his arm, then stealing moments with my wife in secret. I thought of Chloe, caught in the middle of this storm not of her making, and how I had to set an example that betrayal has a price. I am, I said firmly. They wanted to play with our lives like it's a game. I'm going to show them the consequences. We set about drafting the divorce petition, citing irreconcilable differences, the polite legalese covering adultery without spelling it out, but also detailing that it was in Chloe's best interest to live with me. We prepared requests for a temporary custody order and permission for me to remain in the home with Chloe for the short term, though I intended to leave anyway. It was a bargaining chip. The plan was to have everything, divorce papers and the other lawsuits, ready to go, but to hold off serving them until I chose the moment. I wanted maximum impact, a public reckoning where Lauren and Kincaid and their cronies would be caught flat-footed. That required a bit of patience and timing. Fortunately, an opportunity was on the horizon. The firm's annual holiday gala. Every December, CMW threw a lavish party for attorneys, spouses, clients, and VIPs, a who's who of the legal and business community, complete with press coverage in the society pages. Lauren had already mentioned it to me in passing, a weak attempt to be conversational during our uneasy dinners. We got our invitation to the CMW Winter Gala, she had said, sliding the thick embossed card across the table a couple weeks ago. It's at the Grand Milton Hotel ballroom this year. Black tie. I feigned mild enthusiasm and said it sounded nice. Inside, my heart had pounded with resolve. That would be the night. What better stage for the final act? I informed Amanda of my intent to orchestrate the big reveal at the gala. She gave me a long look, perhaps gauging whether I was driven by sound strategy or vindictive impulse. "Serving her at the party, it will certainly be dramatic," she said slowly. "But it might also escalate emotions. Be prepared for backlash." "Oh, I am," I replied. "This isn't just for show. It's psychological warfare. Lauren and her firm have been so confident, so smug. Time to knock them off their pedestal in full view of their peers." Amanda promised to have process servers lined up and ready for that evening, and to coordinate with local sheriffs for serving the out-of-state suits concurrently. We even arranged with Kincaid's wife's attorney, once I discreetly ensured she had one, to have her petition and a restraining order ready to serve to Kincaid at the same moment. I hadn't yet spoken to Margaret Kincaid, though I'd decided I would soon. It was the decent thing to do, to not leave her blindsided by what was coming. Perhaps we could even align our efforts. By the time I left Amanda's office, everything was set in motion. I had become a man with a mission, and that mission was revenge, served ice cold. The night of the CMW Winter Gala arrived, sparkling with deceptive glamour. I remember standing in our bedroom as I adjusted my black bow tie in the mirror. Lauren was behind me, zipping up a stunning emerald green evening gown. We looked, to any outsider, like a picture-perfect power couple prepping for a fancy night out. Inside, I was coiled tight as a spring. In the weeks leading up to the event, I had met with Margaret Kincaid in secret. Contacting her was delicate. I ended up slipping a note into her home mailbox. I had her address from Colin's research, asking to meet at a safe, neutral location. To my slight surprise, she agreed, and we sat together one morning in a quiet park. Telling a stranger that her husband was betraying her with my wife ranks among the most surreal moments of my life. Margaret's face went from confusion to horror to devastation in the span of our conversation. I showed her some of the evidence, enough to remove her doubt, but not so much as to break her completely. She wept behind sunglasses, then swore angrily, then gathered herself with admirable poise. She was stronger than I expected, and by the end, we had formed a solemn pact. She would file for divorce and have Andrew and a court order served at the gala simultaneously. "He'll be on a plane to hell when I'm through with him," she said, voice cold. I felt a kinship with her. Two people scorched by the actions of our spouses, now steeling ourselves to do what had to be done. Back in my bedroom, as Lauren clipped on her diamond earrings, she cast a glance at me in the mirror. "You look handsome, honey," she said softly. "I know things have been tense. Thank you for coming tonight. It means a lot to me." She stepped forward and straightened my bow tie unnecessarily, her fingers lingering on the lapel of my tuxedo jacket. The gesture was almost tender, almost normal, and for a fraction of a second I felt a pang of the old love I once had for this woman. But then I saw, in the reflection, a faint smudge of Kincaid's lipstick at the corner of her mouth. A tiny stain she'd missed. It was like a splash of cold water. I gently wiped the corner of her lip with my thumb. "Lipstick smear," I said. She flushed, perhaps wondering if it was from her quick application just now or from something earlier. She turned away to pick up her purse, avoiding my eyes. "Shall we?" I offered my arm with a polite smile. The show must go on. The Grand Milton Hotel ballroom was a vision of holiday opulence. Twinkling lights, garlands, an enormous decorated pine tree near the stage. A live jazz band played soft renditions of Christmas classics as waiters floated by with champagne. Lawyers in tuxes and gowns mingled with judges, business moguls, and political figures. I recognized several faces from the courthouse and city government. The whole town was here to kiss the ring of CMW and its elite. Lauren was immediately absorbed into a knot of colleagues and clients, introducing me to people I mostly already knew from previous years. I played the affable spouse, shaking hands, making small talk about the delicious hors d'oeuvres, but my senses were on high alert for Andrew Kincaid. I spotted him before Lauren did, across the room, laughing boisterously with a couple of other partners and their wives. Andrew Kincaid cut a dashing figure in his tailored tux, looking every bit the golden boy. My jaw tightened involuntarily, but I forced a neutral expression. Soon enough, our orbits brought us into the same circle. "Michael!" boomed Gerald Carter, one of the named partners, as if greeting an old friend, though I'd only met him twice. "Good to see you, my boy. How's the crime-fighting business?" "Never a dull day, sir," I replied lightly, "though I imagine your firm keeps you just as busy." Quite, Carter chuckled, rocking on his heels. As he engaged someone else, I felt rather than saw the moment Kincaid slipped his arm around Lauren's waist. She stiffened almost imperceptibly. I turned to face them. Lauren stepped aside from Andrew quickly, but not before I saw his fingers trace the small of her back. Kincaid gave me a broad, confident smile. "Mike, glad you could join us this year. Lauren keeping you in line?" I met his gaze evenly. "Someone has to. You know us public servants. Without high-powered lawyers to guide us, we'd be lost." His eyes narrowed just a touch, unsure if that was a joke or a jab. Before he could respond, Elaine Mills swooped in, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, and a martini in hand. "Lauren's husband," she exclaimed warmly. "So lovely to see you." The grande dame of the firm radiated charisma, but her eyes had a predator's gleam. "Enjoying the party?" "Absolutely," I lied pleasantly. "It's spectacular, Miss Mills." "Oh, call me Elaine, dear." Her gaze flitted between Lauren, Andrew, and me, perhaps noticing the subtle tension. "I do hope you're not talking shop on a night like this." "Not at all," I assured her with a grin. "Andrew here was just asking if I plan to stick with the DA's office or ever consider joining the dark side." A few folks in the circle chuckled. Kincaid, smoothly recovering, quipped, "I was telling Mike that with his trial skills, he'd make a killing in private practice. Carter, maybe we should recruit him. If he doesn't mind starting under Lauren, of course." He flashed a brilliant smile and gave a little wink, as if we shared some harmless joke. There it was. I could practically feel Lauren hold her breath. The others, including Elaine, watched with polite curiosity. It sounded like a casual tease, but some subtext was sensed. I let a beat pass, maintaining a mild expression. Then I replied, "Work under Lauren?" I glanced at my wife and gave a faint, cold smile. "I've had some of my best experiences working under Lauren." I turned my eyes to Andrew. "Just as I'm sure she's had plenty of experience working under you." The laughter in our little group died abruptly. One of the junior partners nearly choked on his drink. Elaine's eyes went wide, Lauren's face drained of color as if I'd slapped her. And Andrew, for one fleeting second, lost his polished composure. His smile froze, brow furrowing. The silence was electric. A few beats of the jazz band's music wafted over, underscoring the awkward tableau. I held Andrew's gaze, letting the implication hang. He knew, I knew, and now maybe others suspected too. Elaine, ever the smooth operator, forced a laugh and raised her glass. "Men and their egos," she said to no one in particular, breaking the moment. "Come everyone, let's find our seats. They're about to start the program." The crowd began moving toward the grand dining tables. Lauren grabbed my arm with a vice-like grip as soon as we were a half step away from the others. "What the hell was that?" she hissed under her breath, fury and panic dancing in her eyes. I looked down at her hand on my arm until she released it. "Lighten up, I was joking," I said calmly. "Isn't that what you wanted? Me to be more sociable tonight?" "Don't you dare embarrass me like that again," she warned, her voice low and trembling, with rage, fear, or both. "You think that was funny? That under you comment?" I shrugged. "It got a little rise out of Andy, didn't it?" I said, deliberately using a familiar nickname for Kincaid. "Maybe he's not used to being the butt of the joke." Lauren's eyes blazed. "You can forget about touching me for a long time, asshole," she spat quietly. "You'll be sleeping in that den until further notice." It took everything in me not to laugh in her face. The irony was rich. She had no idea that after tonight, I wouldn't be sleeping under the same roof at all. "Whatever you say, dear," I replied with a bland smile. We found our assigned table near the stage. Name cards in curling script indicated seating. Lauren and I were supposed to sit side by side, with Elaine Mills to my other side and, interestingly, Andrew Kincaid directly across from me, next to a vacant seat reserved for Margaret Kincaid. Margaret had RSVP'd her regrets, for obvious reasons, known only to me. But as we approached, I saw Andrew slide smoothly into my seat, the one beside my wife. He stretched an arm over the back of my chair, chatting with the person on his other side, feigning obliviousness. Lauren tensed next to me. This was a dominance play, petty and juvenile. He wanted me to either cause a scene by making him move or to capitulate and take another seat, marking his territory in front of everyone. I bent down slightly and said in a courteous tone, "Andrew, looks like you're in my seat." He turned, giving me an exaggerated look of surprise. "Am I?" The others at the table grew quiet, sensing something off. Lauren looked mortified, eyes darting between us. Andrew gave me a sly smile. "I'm sure you don't mind switching, right, Mike?" My first instinct was to yank him up by the collar, but I mastered it. Instead, I offered a thin smile. "Not at all." I calmly walked around and took the empty chair across, which had Andrew's name in front of it. Now I was directly facing Lauren and Andrew, rather than sitting beside my wife. It was an unorthodox arrangement for a married couple, but no one commented. Elaine arched an eyebrow, but sipped her champagne. Lauren looked unsure, as if she couldn't decide whether to be angry with me or Andrew or both. Little did they know, sitting opposite them was exactly where I wanted to be. Ringside seats, I thought. Under the table, I slid my phone out and sent a single text message to the group of process servers waiting in the wings of the ballroom. "Serve them all." My heart thumped in my chest as I tucked the phone away. This was it, the point of no return. I reached for the flute of champagne at my place setting and took a slow sip, hoping to hide the slight tremor in my hand. At the podium, a senior partner took the microphone to begin the welcome speeches. I hardly heard him. My senses zeroed in on the periphery of the room, where I knew a half-dozen hired process servers, dressed as waitstaff in identical crisp uniforms, were moving into position. They had photos of each target: Lauren, Kincaid, Elaine Mills, Gerald Carter, and a couple others on the management committee, as well as CMW's general counsel and CFO. We were firing a broadside. The senior partner's speech droned on about the year's successes and holiday generosity. I saw one of my servers, a tall woman balancing a tray of gift bags as a ruse, approach our table from behind Lauren. My pulse quickened. "And now, as we celebrate together, let's not forget," the speaker intoned. The server leaned down politely between Lauren and Elaine. "Mrs. Lauren Peterson?" she inquired. Lauren, annoyed at the interruption, turned slightly. "Yes?" The server set down a thick envelope in front of Lauren. "You have been served," she said softly but clearly. For a second, Lauren just stared at the envelope with the legal caption visible on the front. In RE, the marriage of Peterson versus Peterson, and in the interest of C. Peterson, a minor. Her head whipped around to me, eyes wide in shock. "Mike, what is—" Before she could finish, another server had stepped to Andrew. "Mr. Andrew Kincaid?" He responded reflexively, "Yes," and found a similar envelope deposited in his hands. "Served," the man said. "What the devil?" Andrew blustered, scanning the heading. His face went ashen when he saw Michael Peterson versus Andrew Kincaid, Carter Mills and White LLP et al. "You're suing me?" The ballroom was descending into chaos. Around us, other partners were being approached and handed papers. I glimpsed Elaine Mills with an envelope in hand, livid and perplexed. The CFO was sputtering indignantly at another server. Gasps and murmurs rose from every table as people realized something monumental was unfolding. Andrew shot to his feet, slapping the table with his palms. "What the hell is this?" All eyes turned to our table now. Judges, lawyers, guests alike craned to see. I stood up slowly, buttoning my tux jacket, and fixed Andrew with a stare that finally let free years of pent-up anger. "It means you're being sued, you miserable shit stain," I said, voice carrying in the stunned silence. "Not just you. The whole damn firm and every partner who aided and abetted your little affair with my wife. Fraud, conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Hell, why not throw in federal racketeering for good measure?" "Michael!" Lauren cried, coming around the table toward me, face contorted in panic. "Please, let's talk." "Don't you even touch me," I barked, and she recoiled as if struck. All the emotion I'd held back poured into my glare. "You'll get your chance to talk under oath." Andrew was shaking with fury now. "You son of a—" He lunged as if to grab me across the table. But at that precise moment, another uniformed man tapped him on the shoulder. "Mr. Kincaid, you've been served," he said, handing a second set of documents. Andrew ripped it open angrily. I knew what it was. Margaret Kincaid's divorce petition and a temporary restraining order barring him from their home and freezing assets. Andrew's mouth moved soundlessly as he read, the blood draining from his face. For a heartbeat, I thought the bastard might actually faint. "No," he whispered. In front of everyone, his facade cracked wide open. "No, no, Margaret!" He stumbled back, out from behind the table. At that point, pandemonium fully broke out. Voices everywhere. Some of the firm's partners were shouting at the servers, others on their phones to attorneys. Elaine Mills was on her feet yelling, "Everyone stay calm!" which had the opposite effect. The press, yes, local society media were present, had their cameras and phones out, capturing every delicious second. I took advantage of the confusion to slip away from our table and head toward the exit. I'd done what I came to do. Elvis had left the building. Behind me, I heard Lauren screaming my name in desperation. "Michael! Michael!" I didn't stop. I walked briskly out of the ballroom, through the glittering hotel lobby, and into the cold December night. A valet, thinking I was simply leaving the party early, retrieved my car with efficient speed. My hands were steady on the wheel as I drove home. Our house one last time. I knew Lauren would eventually find her way back there, probably to try to confront me. I intended to be long gone by then. In the trunk, I had packed 2 suitcases with my clothes and personal items earlier that day. A new apartment lease was already signed. A modest two-bedroom in a complex across town, close to Chloe's school, and far from the too big suburban house that had become a lie. I parked in the driveway and hurried inside. The house was dark and silent. I quickly grabbed a few last essentials. The framed photo of Chloe and me at Disney World from the mantel. Lauren wasn't in the picture. She'd been busy working that trip, ironically with Kincaid if my timeline was right. The bottle of aged scotch I'd been saving for a special occasion tonight certainly qualified. And Chloe's favorite blanket she liked to have at my place during sleepovers. As I made to leave, headlights swept across the living room window. A car was pulling up. Too soon to be Lauren, surely. I peered out. No, it was a rideshare. The back door flew open, and Lauren tumbled out, barefoot, heels in hand, clutching the hem of her gown and running up the walkway. I felt a surge of unwanted pity. She looked so frantic, so disheveled from her usual composed self. But I hardened my heart. I debated slipping out the back door before she got in, but she barreled through the front, having apparently used her keys. "Michael!" she cried the second she saw me in the foyer with my luggage. "Oh, thank God. We need to talk." She was breathing hard, makeup smudged from tears. Gone was the fiery, angry woman who had berated me earlier. In her place was someone terrified and desperate. I regarded her coldly. "We have nothing to discuss that can't be handled by our lawyers, Lauren." She blocked the doorway as I tried to move past. "Please," she begged, voice cracking. "Not like this. Not in front of everyone like some criminal. You ambushed me." That ignited my temper. "Ambushed you?" I repeated, incredulous. "You're worried about a little embarrassment? You lied to my face for months. You made me, the fool, in front of everyone, every day." I stepped closer, towering over her. "I gave you every chance to come clean. Hell, I practically served you opportunities on a silver platter. But you just kept on lying." Lauren burst into sobs, covering her mouth. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she wailed. "Not yet, you're not," I said, pulling out my phone and tapping the record function. I wasn't naive enough to have this confrontation without documentation. "Go ahead. Say whatever you came to say. It's being recorded. If you want to explain, do it now before the narrative gets lawyered up." She eyed the phone through tears. "Michael, please, can we just sit and talk? Off the record." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "No. Anything you say to me from now on needs to be something you're not afraid to have on the record." She choked out another sob and nodded. "Okay." She wiped her nose with a trembling hand, mascara streaking. It's not what you think." I almost laughed. The classic cheater's line 1. "It's exactly what I think," I retorted. "My darling wife has been screwing her boss in hotel rooms and company apartments, and God knows where else while I took care of our daughter at home." "I never meant to hurt you," she cried. "I know you won't believe this, but I didn't love him. I don't love him. It was never about leaving you." I stayed silent, letting her dig her own grave. "I was stupid and selfish," she continued haltingly. "It just happened. I didn't plan it. I thought it was just a fling at first. Something to break the monotony." I held up a hand. "Stop." My voice was ice. "Listen to yourself, Lauren. Monotony. That's what our family was to you." "No, she stammered. "Save it," I snapped. "You want forgiveness? You want me to say I understand? I don't. What you did is beyond cruel. To me and to Chloe." At the mention of our daughter, Lauren let out a moan and crumpled against the wall, sobbing harder. Chloe, oh God, Chloe. Yes, Chloe, I echoed. Did you think about her even once while you were off feeling alive with that bastard? Skipping her events, lying to her face, too. I advanced a step. She looked up to you, Lauren. She thought you hung the moon. And you traded that for what? Hotel sex and empty flattery from a sleaze who does this kind of thing as a hobby? Don't say that, she managed between sobs. Andrew loves his family. She caught herself too late. My eyes widened. Loves his family? And you knew that, yet you helped him destroy it? God, you really are a piece of work. It wasn't like that, she insisted weakly. We weren't trying to hurt anyone. We just got caught up. It felt like excitement? Like fireworks? I interjected, watching her face blanch as I used the exact words she had spoken to Nina. Thrills and sparks you weren't getting at home. Her jaw dropped. How do you know? I know everything, I snarled. I know every lie you told, every time you snuck off, every demeaning thing you said about me to justify yourself. Lauren shook her head violently. I never said I didn't love you. I do love you, Mike, I swear. I lost myself. I was stupid. She moved toward me, as if to touch or hug me, but I stepped back again, raising the phone. Stay there. This isn't a damn soap opera. You made your bed, or rather, you defiled ours, and now you can lie in it alone. Her hands balled into fists. Please, let's not do this. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything. I already told Andrew it's over, that I'm done. I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you and Chloe. The sheer audacity of it nearly stole my breath. Make it up? I echoed, voice low. How? By being the wife you should have been all along, by being faithful now that you've had your fun. I shook my head. No, Lauren, there's no making up. We're finished. She broke into a fresh wave of sobs, sliding down the wall to sit on the floor, her satin gown pooling around her. Don't say that. Don't throw us away. 17 years, Mike. She looked up, eyes red and pleading. I was going to end it, truly. I was trying to find the right time to stop it, and then I cut her off, voice harsh. The right time? Maybe after your precious partnership was secured, HM, or when he lost interest in you. No, I swear I was going to tell him it had to stop. I realized I was risking everything, and I wanted out. I was scared. To lose you, to lose our family. It was hard to tell truth from lie at this point, and it hardly mattered. Well, congratulations. You achieved exactly what you were afraid of. Right on cue, the front door burst open again. Dad? Mom? Chloe's voice rang out. I whirled, heart dropping. There stood my daughter, still in her pajamas and a coat thrown over. She must have come from her friend's house nearby. Her eyes were huge, taking in the scene. Me with suitcases, her mother on the floor in tears. The air heavy with our confrontation. Chloe, sweetheart, I started, moving toward her. What are you doing here? I thought you were at Lila's. I forgot my notebook for our project, she said numbly. Then her gaze fixed on Lauren. What is going on? Chloe, I said gently, maybe you should... I want to know, she cried, her voice cracking. Why is Mom crying on the floor? Why do you have suitcases? Her eyes darted to Lauren. Mom! I inhaled sharply. This was the worst possible way for her to find out. I shot Lauren a hard look. Go on, Lauren. Tell her why Dad's leaving. Lauren sucked in a breath, trying to compose herself. Chloe, baby. Chloe's face contorted, sensing the dread in the air. Oh my God. She looked between us, a wildness in her eyes. It was that guy, wasn't it? Her lip trembled, and then she screamed, "Wasn't it?" Lauren dissolved into fresh sobs. "I'm so sorry." Chloe seemed to age 10 years in that moment. Her expression went cold and disgusted as she glared at her mother. "You bitch," she spat. "You cheated on Dad." "Language," I snapped instinctively, but my rebuke was hollow and too late. Lauren crawled forward. "Chloe, please!" Chloe recoiled. "Don't touch me!" she yelled, then turned and bolted up the stairs. A second later, her bedroom door slammed with an echo that seemed to rattle the whole house. Lauren tried to rise, blubbering, "I need to go to her." I stepped in her path. "No, you've done enough. She's my daughter." Lauren tried to shove past, but I held her by the shoulders firmly. "Right now, she doesn't want to see you," I said, my own voice raw with emotion. Hearing my little girl call her mother that word and witnessing her pain was a gut punch, even amidst my anger. "Give her space." Lauren sagged, nodding weakly. I released her. She leaned against the staircase banister, face in her hands, sobbing softly. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to gather myself. I needed to go up to Chloe to comfort her if I could. But first, I addressed Lauren one last time. "I'm leaving now," I said quietly. "I'll be staying at the new apartment I rented. You know the one. The address is on the papers you got tonight." She didn't look up, but I continued. "Chloe will stay here with you until the temporary order's sorted, but I suspect she'll prefer to be with me most of the time. And frankly, I trust you'll respect that until the court sorts custody." Lauren peeked through her fingers, eyes swollen. "Mike, please." It was unclear what she was begging for at this point. "I have nothing more to say to you," I replied. "Your lawyer can talk to mine." I left her there in the foyer and went upstairs. At Chloe's door, I knocked softly. "Pumpkin." "Go away!" came her muffled shout, followed by a choked sob. "It's just me," I said. "Just Dad." After a moment, the door creaked open a few inches. Chloe peered out, confirming it was only me. Then she opened it fully and practically launched herself into my arms. She was trembling violently. "Daddy," she whimpered, reverting to the little girl name she hadn't used in years. "How could she?" I held her tight as she sobbed into my shoulder. "I don't know, baby. I wish I had an answer." My own tears threatened to spill then, but I needed to be strong for her. We sat on her bed amid stuffed animals and posters of pop bands, and I gently explained, as best I could, what was going to happen. "Mom and we're getting a divorce." The word hung heavy. Chloe sniffled, wiping her face. "Good." Her voice was hard. "I don't ever want to see her again." I rubbed her back. "You're likely going to have to see her, at least a little. But you can stay with me as much as you want. I've already talked to a lawyer and we told the judge what you want matters." She nodded. "I want to live with you." Then she looked at me with concern. "Dad, do we have to move?" "I moved," I said. "I got a new apartment. It's not as big as here, but there's a room for you. Actually, I'm heading there tonight." Her eyes widened with fresh alarm. "You're leaving now? What about me? I was going to pick you up tomorrow from Lila's, so you could spend the weekend with me." I hesitated. "If you want, you can come tonight. But I should tell Mom if you're leaving." Chloe set her jaw. "I don't care what she says. I'm going with you." A part of me was proud of her fierce loyalty. Another part worried about the trauma she was bottling as anger. But I didn't argue. "Okay. Pack a bag, just essentials for a couple days. We'll sort the rest later." Within minutes, Chloe had thrown some clothes, her laptop, and a few cherished items into a duffel. She refused to step out into the hall until I ensured Lauren was no longer there. We found the foyer empty. Lauren's purse and shoes were still scattered by the door, but she herself had retreated somewhere, perhaps the downstairs bathroom or our bedroom to cry in private. Fine by me. I left a note on the hall table for her. Chloe is with me. We'll be in touch. And then we left. As I drove away from the only home my daughter had ever known, I glanced over at her. She was staring straight ahead, face set in stony silence, tears dried but eyes red. I reached over and took her hand. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. She squeezed my hand tightly, but said nothing. In my rearview mirror, the house receded into the darkness. In the span of a few hours, my life had been blown apart and rearranged. There was a long, uncertain road ahead: divorce proceedings, custody evaluations, public gossip, the works. But in that moment, I felt a strange calm. The worst was out in the open now. No more lies. I'd lit the match and burned it all down. And standing amid the ashes, holding onto my daughter's hand, I felt something almost like victory. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal maneuvers, emotional fallout, and attempting to assemble a new normal from the wreckage of our lives. If there was one silver lining, it was that Chloe unequivocally wanted to be with me, and Lauren, shattered by guilt and the drubbing her reputation was taking, didn't have the heart to fight her on it, at least initially. Right after that disastrous night, Chloe had refused to speak a word to her mother. She ignored Lauren's texts and calls, and at school she even had the counselor relay to Lauren, who tried to approach her one morning, that any contact had to go through me. Typical teenage fury, amplified by betrayal. My once sweet daughter was now openly calling her mother the slut, not just to me in private, but to Lauren's face on the few occasions they crossed paths. I scolded her for the disrespect, but I understood the wellspring of pain it came from. Lauren, to her credit, never retaliated at Chloe. She would just break down in tears, which only seemed to anger Chloe more. After Chloe intentionally missed 2 of their scheduled Sunday dinners and sneaked out of Lauren's house the one time she did stay over, climbing out her window at midnight and Ubering to my apartment, Lauren finally waved the white flag. We negotiated an interim arrangement where Chloe would reside with me full-time and see her mother at her discretion until the court made it official. Meanwhile, Lauren embarked on what I privately dubbed the Project Save My Marriage campaign, a tragically one-sided effort. She bombarded me with daily texts that swung wildly in tone, from lengthy apologies and self-flagellation to nostalgic "remember when?" messages trying to reminisce me into softening, to short videos of her tearfully saying she missed me. I mostly didn't respond, except where logistics about Chloe required it, and even then, I kept it strictly businesslike. I think that only made her try harder, which was futile. At the advice of my attorney Amanda and common sense, I avoided in-person meetings with Lauren. We communicated through lawyers or brief phone calls if necessary. When I did hear her voice, she was subdued, contrite, practically pleading. It was such a far cry from the confident, sharp-witted woman I'd known that I almost felt pity. Almost. Lauren also enlisted a brigade of friends and family to try to talk some forgiveness into me. Her sister called. Her best friend, Nina, who I suspect was racked with guilt herself, wrote me a long email about how Lauren was deeply remorseful and not thinking straight during that time. Even Lauren's mother, my former mother-in-law, tearfully asked me to consider marriage counseling for the sake of the family. I shut all that down swiftly. That ship has sailed, I told Lauren's mom softly. I will always be family in terms of co-parenting Chloe, but I will never be Lauren's husband again. Still, societal expectations die hard. When our situation became public gossip, and oh, did it ever, after the gala stunt, there was a faction that believed I should attempt reconciliation. The notion was that I was wrecking a home over a mistake that could be fixed with time and therapy. I ignored those voices. They hadn't lived my life or felt that pain. On the legal front, Amanda moved fast to secure temporary orders from the family court. We filed a motion for interim custody, and given the circumstances, Lauren's side didn't contest too hard. They had bigger problems brewing for her at work and with the other lawsuits. Still, Lauren's divorce attorney, a gray-faced fellow named Martin Green, tried to do damage control. We convened for a temporary orders hearing about 3 weeks post-D-Day. Lauren and I sat on opposite sides of a courtroom, not even making eye contact. Chloe had insisted on coming, though I was hesitant. The judge, an older man with a stern but kind demeanor, was about to rule from the bench that Chloe would stay primarily with her mother, that default assumption again, when Chloe simply stood up from her seat in the gallery and spoke out of turn. "Excuse me, Your Honor, I need to say something." My heart leapt into my throat. The judge paused, eyebrows raised. "Young lady, you're not a party to this case." "I'm the kid this is about," Chloe interrupted with the fearless indignation of youth. "No one asked me what I want, and I'm telling you, I want to stay with my dad. If you make me live with her, you might as well send me to juvie now, because I'll run away before I live with that woman." A hush fell. I could see Amanda suppress an approving smile. Martin Green looked annoyed and glanced at Lauren, who stared down at her lap, clearly mortified. The judge cleared his throat. "Well, that's not typically how this works, but since you've spoken, I'll make an exception." He eyed the attorneys. "Unless there's objection, I'd like to talk to Miss Chloe in chambers." Neither side objected, though I could see Martin's jaw clench. They went off for about 15 minutes. I spent the time drilling a hole in the carpet with my anxious stare. Lauren looked ready to cry again. Green was whispering something urgent to her. When they returned, the judge resumed the bench and delivered his ruling. Primary custody to me, visitation to Lauren as arranged by the child. In other words, Chloe could see her mom whenever, and only whenever, she wanted. He also noted for the record that he was impressed by Chloe's maturity and clarity about her preferences. That's my girl. Furthermore, since Lauren out-earned me significantly, and I was now the custodial parent, he expected her to pay me child support. That part Lauren actually seemed relieved about. I suspect in her mind it was a small penance to take care of her daughter's needs via money, since Chloe wouldn't accept anything else from her. If Lauren had hoped the judge would order reconciliation counseling, she was disappointed. However, I was thrown an unexpected curveball. The judge, obviously perceiving the high conflict and emotional carnage, ordered us to attend co-parenting counseling to learn to communicate civilly for Chloe's sake. So in a bizarre twist, about a month after the meltdown, I found myself sitting in a therapist's office with Lauren for the first time. Not to fix our marriage, that was beyond dead, but to figure out how to not mess up our kid any more than had already occurred. The counselor, Dr. Pauline Busby, was a prim, middle-aged woman with a soothing voice, but I quickly pegged her as the type who believed any marriage could be saved and any family healed if folks just tried hard enough. That irritated me. I made it clear from session 1, "We are not here to reconcile, Dr. Busby. I have no interest in repairing the marriage. I'm only here because the court ordered it, to ensure our interactions about Chloe are appropriate." Busby gave me a thin smile. "Understood, Mr. Peterson. but co-parenting effectively often benefits from understanding and forgiveness between the parents. Wouldn't you agree Chloe would thrive if she saw at least a respectful friendship between you two? Respect is fine, I conceded. Friendship is not on the table. Lauren sat silently, eyes fixed on a spot on the floor. In these sessions, she was meek, a shadow of her usual self. I think she believed if she just showed up and didn't antagonize me, perhaps I'd relent over time. Busby attempted all the textbook exercises, I feel statements, reflective listening, etc. I participated perfunctorily, but any time she strayed toward nudging me to consider Lauren's feelings, I shut it down. In our second session, Busby suggested we each make a short list of what we needed from the other to move forward positively. I wrote one item: leave me alone except for Chloe's issues. Lauren's list, I glimpsed sideways, was a pathetic series of pleas, forgiveness, patience, open communication. When it came time to share, I stated my single demand. Busby frowned. Michael, do you really think that's realistic when you have a child together for at least 4 more years? You can't just never speak to Lauren. I didn't say never speak, I clarified coolly. I said leave me alone except when it concerns parenting. I won't tolerate personal overtures. Lauren's eyes rimmed with tears. I only text you about Chloe, she whispered. I raised a brow and pulled out my phone, scrolling. Shall I read the one from last Thursday? I miss you so much. I hate myself. I pray every night you'll find it in your heart to forgive me someday. I gave Dr. Busby a pointed look. Busby cleared her throat. Okay, point taken. Lauren, perhaps refraining from emotional texts is best. Lauren nodded, flushing. Busby folded her hands. Michael, can I ask, what would accountability and amends look like for you? If not forgiveness, then what? I replied, accountability has already begun. She's facing consequences at work, legally, and with Chloe. Those are the wages of her choices. As for amends, there's nothing she can do to make this right. But as a mother, she can show up for Chloe consistently and prove to our daughter over time that she's more than her worst mistake. I paused, and obey the terms of our eventual divorce decree to the letter. Busby pursed her lips. That sounds more like punishment than healing. I leaned forward, voice low and steady. Dr. Busby, my priority is my daughter's well-being. I will coordinate with Lauren to ensure Chloe is supported, but I am under no obligation to heal Lauren or our marriage. My one and only goal is to finalize this divorce swiftly and to minimize drama for Chloe in the future. The counselor looked at Lauren, perhaps expecting her to object or push back, but Lauren just dabbed her eyes and whispered, I understand. In a later session, Busby tried a different tack. Michael, have you considered that dragging out the legal vendetta against Andrew and the firm might indirectly harm you too? If Lauren loses her job or the firm suffers, that could reduce resources for Chloe and increase conflict. I smirked. If you're suggesting I should have mercy on that den of vipers for a few dollars, think again. I earn enough to provide for my kid. If Lauren's poor choices cost her financially, that's on her. Busby eyed me. It seems like you're very angry. I actually laughed at that. A short, bitter laugh. Of course I'm angry, but I'm also very calculated, Dr. Busby. This vendetta, as you call it, it's strategy. They need to know they messed with the wrong man. Busby asked Lauren to step out for a moment. Then she leveled with me. Off the record, Michael, I'm worried that you're pursuing something that might ultimately hurt you too. Total destruction isn't a victory if you blow yourself up in the process. I gave her a polite smile. Thank you for your concern, but believe me, I've considered the costs. She shook her head. Hatred like this can consume. I didn't let her finish. Let's call it resolve, not hatred. Hatred implies passion. Resolve is cold. She sighed. I'll be direct. I think you're intentionally making Lauren hate you in return, because that makes it easier to sever everything. I met her gaze. Lauren's feelings are irrelevant. I'm divorcing her whether she loves or hates me. Later that night, I reflected on Busby's words. Maybe I was fostering an atmosphere where Lauren would come to hate me back, rejecting every apology, punishing her in court, in front of colleagues, even dictating terms in therapy. Perhaps on some level Busby was right. If Lauren grew to despise me, she might sign the papers faster and crawl away without a fight, which is exactly what I wanted. Over time, that's essentially what happened. My multi-front legal attack did its damage. The civil suits I filed, in North Carolina and Utah, as planned, became a nightmare for CMW. Even if such suits might not ultimately win, the discovery process threatened to expose other dirty laundry. Rumors reached me that a couple more wives of partners had started asking pointed questions about their husbands' travel schedules. The firm's senior management went into crisis mode, not helped by Elaine Mills and Gerald Carter, also being named defendants in the conspiracy claim. Clients got wind of the scandal, and some quietly began looking for representation elsewhere to avoid the mess. Within a couple of months, Andrew Kincaid resigned from the firm, no doubt forced out to staunch the bleeding. He slunk away in disgrace, facing his own divorce and the likely evisceration of his finances by Margaret's very capable lawyers. Last I heard, he moved to another city and hadn't found new employment yet. A fallen golden boy. CMW offered me a hefty settlement to drop the suits against the firm and partners. I didn't do it for money, but I did make them sweat before eventually agreeing to settle. Part of the settlement, my only non-negotiable condition, was a written apology delivered to me from the firm acknowledging inappropriate oversight of its employees' conduct. Essentially a mea culpa that they screwed up letting the affair happen on their watch. My lawyer told me that clause enraged them, but they conceded to get the deal done. I treasured that document more than the check they cut. It was symbolic. Goliath had been humbled. As for Lauren, the mighty CMW partner-to-be, she was informed in no uncertain terms that her chances at partnership were dead and that she might want to seek employment elsewhere quietly. In other words, fired without the PR of a firing, with the job market in shambles and her professional reputation tarnished by gossip, she ended up taking an in-house counsel job at a mid-sized tech company. Decent pay, but nothing like what she had, and certainly not glamorous. The mighty had fallen, and a small, cold part of me rejoiced in that. Divorce negotiations were surprisingly civil, all things considered. True to my suspicion, by the time we got to hammering out the final decree, Lauren was so beaten down by shame and regret, and perhaps anger at my unyielding stance, that she offered little resistance. She effectively let me write the script. Joint legal custody, primary residence with me, generous visitation for her that Chloe would likely ignore or use minimally until she felt ready. An even split of assets. I didn't seek more despite adultery, aside from a slightly larger share of liquid funds to cover Chloe's future college costs. I waived any spousal support either way. I didn't want or need her money, and I certainly wasn't going to pay her a dime. The house, well, I let her keep it for now. Under the agreement it would be sold when Chloe turned 18 and proceeds split. Neither Chloe nor I wanted it. Lauren alone in that big, empty monument to our failed marriage felt like fitting penance. The final court hearing to dissolve the marriage was brief. We sat apart, answered the judge's rote questions, and it was done. 17 years of marriage, legally ended in 17 minutes. Outside the courtroom, as our lawyers chatted, Lauren approached me hesitantly. It was the first time we'd been face to face without a mediator in some time. "I know you don't want to hear this," she said softly, "but I am sorry. For everything." I looked at her, this stranger I once loved, and felt nothing. No anger, no nostalgia, just a dull acceptance. "I hope you find peace, Lauren," I said, and meant it in a detached way. "But my only concern now is raising our daughter. Please do right by her from here on out." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I will. I promise." I nodded and walked away, leaving her standing there in the corridor, wiping her tears alone. Life, as it tends to do, marched on. By the next summer, Chloe and I had settled into our new rhythm. We lived in a modest but comfortable townhome not far from her school. She painted her bedroom walls a wild lilac and plastered them with posters and photos of her and her friends. We got a golden retriever puppy, something Lauren had never wanted to deal with amidst her career. Chloe named him Max. The three of us, me, my daughter, and our goofy dog, formed a little team. It wasn't always easy. Chloe had moments of intense sadness and confusion. And yes, even missing her mom. Anger is a powerful shield, but once it cools, the hurt remains. I got her a therapist to talk to, and over time, her outburst toward Lauren gave way to cautious, if strained, civility. Lauren, to her credit, never missed a scheduled visitation opportunity, even if Chloe refused to come out of my house or only met her for a terse coffee meetup. She kept trying, and gradually, Chloe let her guard down enough to have more regular contact. A year on, they were attending a weekly dinner again. It would never be the same, Chloe made that clear, but at least it wasn't all venom and ice. As for me, I poured myself into work and parenting. After the divorce, some colleagues suggested I consider running for a judgeship or even DA next cycle, riding the wave of my crusader image. I laughed that off. Public office didn't appeal to me. I'd had enough public drama for a lifetime. I did get a quiet nod of respect from various corners for taking on the high and mighty. Even Bob, my boss, joked that I had done the legal community a favor by knocking CMW down a peg. The dust settled. My anger faded to an ember, then mostly cooled. I'd like to say I felt triumphant always, but the truth is, revenge is a mixed bag. Yes, I had delivered justice in my own way, and there was grim satisfaction in that. But the collateral damage was real, most notably the pain carved into my daughter's once bright eyes. Over time, that healed too, but it left scars. One evening, about a year and a half after everything, Chloe and I were making dinner. More accurately, I was cooking and she was sampling ingredients and DJing from her iPhone. Out of the blue, she asked, "Dad, are you happy?" The question gave me pause. "I'm getting there," I said honestly. "Why do you ask?" She shrugged, fiddling with Max's ears as he begged at her feet. "I don't know. You just seem lighter lately." I realized she was right. The bitterness that once kept me up at night had largely dissipated. I had, almost without noticing, begun enjoying life again. The simple pleasure of a quiet weekend with my kid, a good book, a jog with our exuberant dog. "I think I am happy," I amended, pulling her in for a one-armed hug. "Having you safe and with me, that's my happiness." She groaned playfully. "Duh, cheesy." But she hugged me back. Not long after, I started something resembling dating. At first it was awkward. How does a 40-something single dad meet people? Answer, very carefully and usually via friends or happenstance, since I wasn't brave enough for apps. But eventually, I met a woman named Marianne, Mara, a kind, funny oncology nurse who had been through her own hell. Her ex cheated, and even got the other woman pregnant. When Mari told me that story on our third date, I felt a strange kinship. We took things slow, more like companions than starry-eyed lovers at first. But something there just clicked. She understood my wariness, and I understood hers. We both knew trust had to be earned over time, and we were okay with that. The night I introduced Chloe to Marianne and her teen son, I was nervous. But to my relief, Chloe later reported she actually liked her. Mari's son and Chloe bonded over a shared obsession with some video game and were soon strategizing together on weekends. It was nice. It was healing. One summer evening, Mari and I took Max, now fully grown but still puppy-goofy, for a walk while Chloe was at a friend's. A soft breeze rustled the trees, and Mari slipped her hand into mine. "You know," she said, "the way you fought for your daughter, that was one of the first things I admired about you." I smiled, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "I'd do anything for her." "I know," she replied. "That's why I trust you." I looked at her in surprise. She leaned up and kissed me softly, the setting sun painting her face in golden light. In that moment, I felt something release, a last remnant of the darkness I'd carried. I had been so focused on dismantling the past that I hadn't fully realized I was building a future, brick by brick, in its place. A future where I wasn't a bitter husband or a cuckold or an avenging prosecutor. I was just Dad, just Mike, a man who went through fire and came out the other side, singed but not destroyed. That night, after Mari went home and I was locking up, I got a text from an unknown number. It read, "Victory." It took me a second to realize who it must be, the mystery caller from so long ago. I hadn't heard from her since that first day. I typed back a reply after a moment of thought. Yes, victory. Because it was, in the end. Not the pompous, swaggering victory of a man who won his wife back or something Hollywood like that. No, it was the quieter triumph of a man who lost what he thought mattered, endured the storm, and emerged with what truly matters: his dignity, his child, and a life free of lies. As I climbed into bed, I reflected on how far I'd come. The rage that once kept me up at night had ebbed. I felt content. And when I drifted off to sleep, it was with a lighter heart, knowing that the worst was behind us and whatever lay ahead, we could handle. In the darkness, one final thought crossed my mind, a sort of personal mantra forged from the ordeal. Trust is fragile, betrayal has a price, but truth and love, in whatever form remains, will always eventually set you free.